Hey y'all, howdy. Welcome to One for the Books. I'm Sandy Broadwell, and today is the kickoff of the cat vlog. Speak of the devil. There are a ton of books that have cats on the cover, and I thought, why not? I have read quite a few books with cats on the cover, but I have many more on my TBR. They're not hard to come by. But two of these books meet like goals or reading challenges that I had, and one of them is just a book that I wanted to read. So I already have the 3 books picked out that I'm going to read for this vlog. The first one is Pet Sematary by Stephen King, and this one is just one that I've been wanting to read. I've only ever read 2 books by Stephen King in the past. One of them was his nonfiction memoir about writing, full of great writing advice. And the second one that I read, the only fiction book that I read by Stephen King, was Salem's Lot, which is about vampires. And it was utterly delightful. I ate it up. So very excited to try another classic by Stephen King. And Pet Sematary is famously noted by Stephen King himself as being the scariest book that he's ever written. And he said scary not necessarily to the reader, but just in the utter depravity that he, after writing it, put it aside and was like, this shouldn't be published. I really took it too far this time. So that super intrigued me, and of course there's a cat on the cover. So Pet Sematary's book number 1 for the vlog. The other 2 books that I want to read are, the first one being Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov, I think. This is a Russian classic that was written in the 1930s. I feel like I don't hear a lot of people talking about this book, and I don't know that much about it other than there's a cat on the cover and it has to do with the devil. So I'm gonna pull up the Goodreads description and read it to you so you can get an idea of what this book is about. It says, The Master and Margarita is recognized as one of the essential classics of modern Russian literature. The novel's vision of Soviet life in the 1930s is so ferociously accurate it could not be published during the author's lifetime and appeared only in a censored edition in the 1960s. Its truths are so enduring that its language has become part of the common Russian speech. So, wow, that sounds great already. So then here is the description of what the book is about. One hot spring, the devil arrives in Moscow, accompanied by a group that includes a beautiful naked witch and an immense talking black cat with a fondness for chess and vodka. The visitors quickly wreak havoc in a city that refuses to believe in either God or Satan. But they also bring peace to 2 unhappy Muscovites. One is the Master, a writer pilloried for daring to write a novel about Christ and Pontius Pilate. The other is Margarita, who loves the Master so deeply that she is willing to literally go to hell for him. What ensues is a novel of inexhaustible energy, humor, and philosophical depth. Wow, that sounds great. So very excited to check out Master and Margarita, and this one meets my goal of reading 8 classics in the year 2025. So that one had to be out on this TBR. And then finally, I am participating in the Reddit r/fantasy bingo challenge this year, and the timeline for that is like April 2024 through March 2025, so I only have 3 months left to complete the entire bingo card. And one of the ones that I don't have on my bingo card yet is the little square that says criminals. So I'm supposed to read a book where a villain or a criminal of some kind is the main character. And what better way to do that than with Starter Villain by John Scalzi. This cover is just adorable, and from what I know, this book is about a man whose uncle was like a supervillain, and his uncle dies and like leaves him the villainous franchise as his inheritance. And I believe there are talking cats. So that just sounds like a great time. So that's the plan for the vlog, and I have already gotten started without you guys. I am currently 60% of the way into Pet Sematary by Stephen King. And so far, this book, I don't think I even told you guys what this book is about. This book is about a family that moves into a house in rural Maine, and there is a busy street in front of their house that like a lot of big industrial trucks are driving through all the time. And their neighbor tells them that they need to be really careful around the street because of these trucks, and says that road has ate up a lot of pets over the years. Once they move in, find this trail in the back of their property that leads up to this pet cemetery where children over the years have buried their pets who died on the road or didn't, just from whatever natural causes. But it's kind of like a known thing for the kids in the community that this pet cemetery exists back in the woods. As you can imagine, the family's cat gets hit by a truck and they bury it up in the pet cemetery. But when they do, the cat comes back and it's different. So that's kind of the premise of the book. I don't want to give too much away, but I feel like that's pretty well known. There's been multiple movie adaptations of Pet Sematary. I don't think I'm planning to watch any of them because the reviews don't seem super great for any of them. The best reviews were definitely for the oldest version of the movie, which was made in like 1989, but there was one made in like 2019 as well. I watched the trailers for both of them. I wasn't impressed, but I am having a good time with Pet Sematary so far. I am currently 60% of the way in. I don't want to reveal too much, but I do feel like it's important to say enough. And at this point in the book, one of the family members has been killed. And so, as you can imagine, this book deals very intimately with grief. The grief of losing someone who is so intimately close with you, and the decisions that are made in the fog of the aftermath of that. So that's kind of exactly where I am in the book right now. If you've read it, then you know, but I'm so excited to see what happens next. I think the book is going to get really unhinged from here. It's been kind of slow so far, but in a good way. It's just been about them living in this community, meeting people, making friends with their neighbors, and dealing with death. The vibes are definitely a little creepy and tense, but I feel like it's gonna ramp up quite a bit. And it's just got that kind of spooky, unsettling feeling so far. I also have really connected with Stephen King's writing in this book. There has been several passages just about like the relationship between a husband and wife, or about the way you deal with grief after losing someone, that I have really connected to. But since this is the cat vlog, I thought I would just start off by reading you the passage that he says about cats, because I thought this was really insightful about these cute critters that we love so much. It says, "Cats lived violent lives and often died bloody deaths, always just below the usual range of human sight. A dog got them and ripped them open instead of just chasing them like the bumbling, easily fooled dogs in the TV cartoons. Or another Tom got them, or a poisoned bait, or a passing car. Cats were the gangsters of the animal world, living outside the law and often dying there. There were a great many of them who never grew old by the fire." So I just really have been enjoying the ride so far, and I will tune in and let you guys know what I think after I finish the book. Good morning. I finished Pet Sematary by Stephen King, and conclusions. I had a good time with this book. I am giving it 4 stars. It's not like the amazing, like unforgettable book that I thought it was going to be, and I think that just my expectations of it were a little off. And I think the reason for this is because the way that it ended was, to me at least, predictable. And I think the reason that it was so predictable, because literally like the like last paragraph, like the way that it ended, I was like, okay, well that's tropey. But then I started thinking about it, because this book was published in like 1983, and I grew up watching Stephen King based movies, and the reason that it's tropey is because like Stephen King is the trope. Like, he maybe not invented this style of horror, but like popularized it. Like, he is the reason that these things seem tropey now. Because he's like the godfather of horror. Not really, obviously, but like he has certainly been a force in the genre for a very long time, and so many modern authors and movie makers like are inspired by the work of Stephen King. And so I think the fact that it felt predictable and like literally the way it ended, I was like, wow, I feel like I'm watching like a 1980s horror movie. And it's like, well, yeah, that is what I'm watching. That is what I'm reading. So I had a good time. I would say honestly, like the first like 3/4 of the book almost are like fairly slow paced, but I remained engaged throughout the entire book because the characters were really compelling. They felt like real people. And the fact that these characters felt like real people stumbling along an inevitable path, I feel like is what makes Stephen King's writing so popular, like so compelling, so classic at this point. What can I tell you about this that I didn't say in the first one? I know I told you that the cat came back to life after he buried it in the pet cemetery and that it was different. So just imagine a cat that's like more aggressive. It smells rotten, like it smells dead. Anytime it like rubs up against your leg or like hops in your lap, you're immediately just like, ugh, like revulsion, like you are repulsed by it and you can't put your finger on why. So there's just like, it's just like a vibe. It's not like the cat like does anything evil that cats do. Like it, you know, it kills animals and things, but like that's a normal cat behavior. But it's just different in unsettling ways. That's kind of what I was expecting, I guess, when other things in the book are brought back to life. But that's not really what happens. The other things that are brought back to life have a distinctly evil dimension. And I found that to be a little bit incongruous. And of course, the fact that this like pet cemetery is like an ancient Indian burial ground or whatever is a little cringe. But yeah, overall, I found this to be a really fun and engaging read, and I'm glad that I read it. So that's Pet Sematary by Stephen King. And now I will be moving on to Starter Villain by John Scalzi. So I'll see you then. So I had a midway clip of me reading Starter Villain, but looking back through it, I was so low energy and all over the place that I don't feel like I was very coherent or entertaining to watch. So here I am. I've just finished Starter Villain, and so I'll just give you my full thoughts now. This was a fun popcorn style read. I think it could definitely be used as like a palate cleanser. The premise is this guy is down on his luck. He's having a lot of financial woes because he got laid off as a journalist, and finds out on the news that his uncle, who's like a super rich, you know, multi-millionaire, has died. And then shortly after that, someone from his uncle's estate comes to contact him and asks him to come stand in for his uncle's funeral service as the representative of his family. The guy, the main character, is like very surprised by this. He has been estranged from his uncle because his uncle and his dad's relationship was not good, and he hasn't seen his uncle in over 30 years since he was like 5 years old. So he has absolutely no memory of his uncle or has any indication of like why his uncle would want him to be there. But he agrees because they tell him that if he does this for his uncle, that his uncle had agreed to buy the house that he was living in and give it to him, basically. So he does, and then when he goes to the funeral home and the viewers start to arrive, he realizes that none of these people are here to mourn his uncle. They're all there to make sure that he's actually dead. And this is how he is introduced to the idea that his uncle is actually a supervillain. This, I think, is part of the fun of this novel, is that it really leans into the like cartoony, mustache twirly villainous of it all, with like a secret volcano layer and like an organization of supervillains and things like that. There are super intelligent cats, as indicated on the cover. They don't talk, which I think was a good call, but they can use little type pads to like essentially communicate. There's also super intelligent dolphins that protect the island from underwater espionage, but they're on strike right now and they're very foul-mouthed, and so there's just like a lot of humorous aspects to the story, and I love how John Scalzi just went whole hog into it. The things about this that didn't really work for me were the humor, particularly of the main character. The main character I found just a little bit annoying. His style was very quippy and kind of like on the level of dad jokes, and I feel like if I had been in middle school when I read this, I would have eaten it up. But at this point, it's just not my style of humor. I did think that this plot had some good twists in it, and I feel like it was the perfect length. You could easily read this book in an afternoon, and I think if it had been really any longer, that it would have felt like too drawn out. And so I think for what it was just a perfect like bite-sized read to get you through a rainy afternoon. Yeah, I'm giving it 3.5 stars. It was a good time. I'm glad I read it, and I think that this would appeal to a pretty mass audience. If you're looking for just like a fun, easy, short read, A Starter Villain should be on your list for sure. So the last book for this vlog is going to be... Do you really need to be knocking things off shelves right now? Cat vlog, right? What was I saying? Yeah, the last one for the vlog is going to be Master and Margarita. Unfortunately, my library hold is still several weeks out on that one right now, so I will be taking a pause on this vlog for now and reading some other things. Of course, there won't be any pause for you because you'll see it in the next clip. I'll be reading some other things in the meantime, and then I will just come back and update you guys as soon as I get a hold of the next book, and I'll see you then. What are you doing, Poggy? Are you causing chaos? Can you please not knock off my Legos? Hey, it's confession time. I started this vlog in January, and I read both of the first 2 books in January, and now it is August. And the reason this happened is because I started to read Master and Margarita when that book, like that library hold came in, and it put me in such a reading slump. I can't even remember at this point how much of it I read. It wasn't a lot. I would say 10 to 20% of the book. And in that amount of time, there was just like some men talking in like a public square in Russia, and they witness a man get decapitated by like a trolley or train car or something like that. And that's really like all that was significant that happened. Very uninteresting, despite what that sounds like, because most of it was just them sitting around talking. And then the one man who witnesses it, I believe, like wanders around Russia like in his pajamas because he's traumatized by it. But in that, even me saying it out loud, that sounds interesting, but it just wasn't. At least not the way that it was written. It felt like it took way too long for anything to happen. So I kept telling myself for many months that I was going to come back to it and finish this vlog. And every time I tried, I would just read a little bit and be like, yeah, no, it's not working. It's not happening. So I eventually allowed myself to DNF it. I think this was like back in like April, maybe May, and I was just like, it's just not gonna happen. Like, I don't know if this vlog is ever gonna happen, because I didn't have anything else on my TBR that had a cat on the vlog at that moment, on my immediate TBR, I should say. But then, if you have seen my recent video about how to start a book club, you know that I am starting a book club with my family, and I'm very excited about it. And the first book that has been chosen for our book club is Dungeon Crawler Carl, which does have a cat on the cover. So I'm finally gonna finish this vlog. I didn't feel right ending a vlog on a DNF just because I didn't even have any footage from when I was reading that book. I didn't film anything because I didn't feel like I had anything to say. So now things are different. And I'm very excited to be reading Dungeon Crawler Carl. I've heard so many good things about this series. This series has been super duper hyped over the last year, and I actually just had a friend. I have a friend that randomly texts me maybe twice a year and is just like, hey, have you read this book? Hey, have you read this book? And every time I'm so excited to hear from him just because it's just always so fun to discuss books with friends. But his most recent text, like a week ago, was, have you read Dungeon Crawler Carl? And I said, no, but I actually just bought this and I'm planning to read it. And he was like, oh my God, it's so good. So anywho, yes, I have officially started Dungeon Crawler Carl. My book club with my family is not until like the second week of September, so I'm way ahead of the curve, but I am the instigator of book club, so I wanted to make sure I was extra prepared with like notes and discussion questions and things like that. So let's talk about the first half of Dungeon Crawler Carl. I am, I think, a little over halfway actually. I'm on chapter 30, page 247 out of 450 essentially. I also just noticed recently I took the cover off and it says, "You will not break me" on the front of the hardcover without the dust jacket. So I really liked that. That was a nice surprise. So for those of you who have been hiding under a rock and haven't heard, Dungeon Crawler Carl is the story of planet Earth gets essentially invaded by aliens, but not a typical alien invasion where like the aliens are coming down to Earth. The aliens just destroy Earth in a snap and use all of the materials from the planet to create a multi-level dungeon. And anyone who was indoors or just like had a roof over their head or was in a car is instantly killed when this happens. Like they don't even know, they know nothing about it. They're just dead. Anyone who happened to be outside, not under a shelter at that time, survives. And all of these entrances open up all over planet Earth into this giant planet-sized dungeon. And then they can hear a voice in their heads that tells them they're the next contestants on this alien reality game show. And it's like Survivor, right? It's like if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons or any like first-person shooter game, then you know kind of how this goes. It's funny because I was just telling my husband recently, I was like, you know how when Twitch first became a thing and older generations especially were like, why would anyone ever watch someone else play, like stream a video game? Like, why wouldn't they just play the game themselves? But obviously like Twitch and like streaming video games and like watching people play video games is a huge industry. And this to me feels like reading someone playing a video game. But of course that's not how it feels to the characters. Our main characters, two main characters obviously, are Carl and Princess Donut the cat. I also want to post up the original cover for this book, which was Matt Dinniman originally self-published the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. And this is the original cover, which also has the cat, Princess Donut, on the cover. Now that there's like 6 or 7 books out, it has been picked up by the Big Five publishing industry and edited a little bit and republished in hardcover. So congrats to Matt Dinniman for like making such a splash and becoming so popular as a self-published author that the industry couldn't wait to get their hands on it. So Carl is living in Seattle and he has recently found out that his girlfriend is cheating on him, and so they're in the process of breaking up, but he still has her cat, Princess Donna, at the apartment. Princess Donna runs outside and escapes, and Carl runs after her, and that's when the world ends, essentially. So they end up getting into this dungeon together. And Princess Donna is not just any cat. She is like a professional show cat. She, like, her owner took her around and, like, did cat shows, and so she is a true princess. Now that they are in the dungeon together, it is very much like a video game. There are, like, health potions they can take. There are weapons they can find. If there's any, like, goblins that they kill, they can loot them for and add things to their inventory. Their inventory is like a menu in their heads. They don't actually have to carry all the things that they carry, which is really nice and helpful. It is just so fun. It is such a fun concept. This is my first ever lit RPG book that I've read, where the characters actually have the ability to level up by killing more things, by earning more things, by learning more things. And there's apparently 18 levels of the dungeon, and each level collapses after so many days. And so if they haven't found their way from like level 1 to level 2 deeper into the dungeon by, you know, like 5 days in or something, then they'll get crushed because level 1 will collapse. So there's a lot of high stakes and a lot of obviously confusion, and this extraterrestrial game show is extremely effed up, as you can imagine, because they get points for killing and just doing really gross stuff. It's so funny. The game show has like voices that will pop into the characters' heads to give them guidance or to give them bonuses or some things like that, and it's just it's very tongue-in-cheek, but it's horrifying to imagine like a human really in this situation. And of course the entire planet, like all humans that are left, essentially are in this situation. So that's the concept. I am, like I said, about a little over halfway through. I'm having a fantastic time. I am thinking about this book when I'm not reading it. I just started it Thursday evening pretty late, and I read maybe like 60 pages, and now it is Sunday morning, and I imagine there's a very good chance that I will finish this book today, or if not today, definitely tomorrow. So yeah, I'm just excited to continue and find out what happens, find out how much more effed up we can go. And I'm excited to talk about this book with my family. I think it's hilarious that my mom is going to read this, and my brother, my husband, and my brother's girlfriend. That's our book club. So I can't wait to see what everyone else thinks about it, and I hope they have as good of a time as I'm having right now. So that's it, and I'll tune back in after I finish the book. See you then. All right, we've made it. It is the final clip of the vlog after, 8 months. Definitely the longest project I've ever undertaken, because I gave up in the middle and just found my mojo back. But it is the same day, believe it or not. And I know you can't tell because I did a lot of gardening, so then I showered and changed shirts and everything, but I did finish Dungeon Crawler Carl. It's the same day that I filmed earlier today. And I have a decent number of tabs that I have taken, and I also have a little tiny notebook where I made notes, because this is for my family's book club. So since we're not meeting for another month, I wanted to make sure that I took notes to remember everything that I want to discuss with the family. So I am a huge fangirl of Princess Donut. She is a super fun character, a super fun companion to Carl. They have really good banter. Maybe that was a bit of a spoiler, but Princess Donut, upon entering the dungeon, is fairly immediately like enchanted to be a player character and not just like an NPC. And she is snarky and fun and cute and just adorable in all the ways that you hope a talking animal companion will be. And her and Carl's dynamic as they struggle through the dungeon together, as they learn how to live with each other in this new environment, and also like how to rely on each other. I just really, really enjoyed. So I cannot wait to see where this series is going. And I didn't realize this doesn't really have a complete ending like a normal book. It's like a continuous story. It feels a little bit like there was just a chop at the ending and the story's continuing in book 2, but not in the same way that like a conclusive first book would be in to kick off a series. So I'm a little bit worried that my family is going to be very upset that I chose this for book club, but I didn't know that at the time. I did know it was the start of a longer series. I did not know that it doesn't have a satisfying ending. But I immediately wanted to like rush out and buy book 2. My friend that I mentioned earlier, I texted him and let him know that I had finished the book today. And he was like, I just finished book 2. You can borrow it if you want. So I will probably be making a trip over to his house to borrow that book very soon. But I'm also trying to hold myself back because I don't want to read book 2 before we have book club for book 1, because I don't want the stories to get jumbled in my head and accidentally say something that could be spoilery for someone else. So I think I'm going to hold off for about a month before I pick up book 2. But I had a fantastic time with this. This was absolutely a 5-star read. I flew through it. I didn't want to put it down. It wasn't a perfect book. There were some language choices that I didn't agree with, but I laughed out loud at least once. I was absolutely gripped, and I cannot wait to find out what happens next. I will be flying through this whole series, I would imagine, maybe even before the end of the year. There's, I think, 7 books out so far. There's a planned 10-ish. The author has said 10 is what he planned for, but that could easily change. So very excited to see what's going to happen as we continue deeper into the dungeon. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with me as I attempted to read 4 different books with cats on the cover and successfully completed 3 of them. So let me know down in the comments below what some of your favorite books are that have cats on the cover, and what some of them are on your TBR that you're looking forward to getting to soon. I would love to know what your cat vlog TBR might look like. So as always, thanks so much for hanging out and tuning in. Please be kind, read more books, pet more cats, and hit the subscribe button down below for more bookish content to come. I'll see you again soon.